Fact-finding. Boniface. My father has always been a good man, one who cannot hurt a fly. He has worked for the Alpha's household since his youthful days as a driver. He started working for the former Alpha when George was not even born, and he has seen the young boy grow to maturity and eventually become an Alpha. He used to drive him to school and back when he was a student, and even now when he's the Alpha. My father is still one of his drivers. But look how he has chosen to pay him. Why the Alpha has decided to hold my father is something that torments me, and I'm sure my mother is more tormented than I am. She was inconsolable when they took him, and I spent almost 2 hours trying to assure her that he will be fine. Now I'm torn between two things: finding my sister Natalie, and freeing my father. The Alpha has already told me that bringing back Natalie to the Two Hills Pack is the only way of seeing my father being set free. I'm so angry with Alpha George, and when, or if an opportunity arises, I'll strike him for taking my father. I pray that the opportunity presents itself soon enough. I don't tell Mom why they are holding my father. Neither do I tell her anything about Natalie. All I know about Natalie is what Alpha George told me, and I need to verify before telling it to anyone else. I don't trust Alpha George. After a lot of thinking, I find that the best way to handle the situation in front of me is to go into the Evergreen Pack and gather the facts myself. Therefore, I start planning for my journey. I need to find the easiest way of getting there, and using an old map in my room I can see it. I need to get first into the forest that separates us. A forest renowned for the beasts and rogues that abound there, making it ungovernable. Then through the forest I may need to take a detour into the woodland, pack for a short distance, then emerge on the eastern side of the Evergreen Pack. According to the map, once I'm in the Evergreen Pack, I need to look for a shopping mall, and from there I can start looking around for Natalie. Since I have her photos, it will be a very easy job. Luckily, I may convince her to come back with me, without revealing the mate business with Alpha George. If she accepts to come back home with me, then my father walks free. I shudder to imagine what would happen if she says no. But of utmost importance is to find out why she left and what can be done for her to come back. I have tried several times to hypothesize on her reasons for escaping, and I have found none. She had no enemies. She didn't do anything wrong at home. She was doing well at school. I mean, there was no good enough reason for her to run away. The Evergreen Pack is renowned for its exemplary levels of education. Maybe that's why she chose to run and join them. But that reason too doesn't hold much, especially why she ran without saying goodbye. I go to sleep very late, past midnight, and my plans are to leave very early in the morning before Mom wakes up. My plans are to arrive at the Evergreen Pack by 4 o'clock in the evening, just as the students flood the shopping mall. Maybe she may come there herself, or I may bump into someone who knows her. It's after I have finalized these plans that I drift into deep sleep. My plans are to wake up earlier than my mom and leave before she can inquire about where I'm going. She can be quite inquisitive at times. But as I leave through the back door, she calls out at me. It's around 6 o'clock in the morning. She has been up earlier than I thought. "Bonnie, where are you going?" she asks. She's now standing at the door, and I can't hide the fact that I'm going on a journey. There's a backpack on my back and I'm wearing boots. "I'm going out for a while. I'll be back in the evening," I reply. She walks slowly towards me, looking at me with eyes full of melancholy, tears on the brink of falling, only restrained by years of rehearsal. She knows how to hold back tears. She holds my head in both of her hands, then draws it down for our eyes to meet. It's all written in her eyes. She is at the edge. "Don't leave me, Bonnie. I'll die if you do. Your sister Natalie is gone. Your father too, and now you are all that I have. If you leave, I'll have no one by me. Please stop going wherever it is that you are going," she beseeches me. "But mother, I'm only going out for an errand. I'll be back," I say. The small hands let go of my head, and she stands there emotionless, looking at me, sizing me up. "Are you sure you'll be back today?" she asks. When I delay in answering, she walks 2 steps behind. I knew it, Bonnie. Something told me you were going away, but at least you should have waited for my blessings. Go now, and come back as you are. You have my unsolicited blessings. Nothing will harm you. Then she hurries back into the house, and at the door she turns around and waves me goodbye. I wave back and only leave when she's inside the house and the door has been shut. I have some sadness in me, and I wonder whether it's worth going on this mission. 2 hours later, I have crossed our pack's borders and am deep inside the forest. If indeed Natalie is in the Evergreen Pack, then she must have used this route. The famed forest. The abode of the much-vaunted rogues and beasts. The same forest where Logan and I will be training the said rogues. I just hope that I don't run into any of them. My plans are going on smoothly and I quickly shift, then take off at high speed. The tricky part about my journey is how to cross into the Evergreen Pack. Their borders are highly guarded and they have mechanisms of detecting any breach within their borders. But I have a few tricks up my sleeve. I run non-stop for 2 hours and I can detect that I'm almost at their border. And at that point I look for the river I had seen in the map. It runs at the southern end of the forest, acting as the boundary. I search for it for about an hour, and just when I am about to give up I hear the sound of water falling on rocks. I run towards it and look for the deepest part and jump in. Swimming from underneath, I emerge on the other side, and I'm now in the territory of the Evergreen Pack. I now need to put my plans into action. I need to locate the shopping mall first.
James, Natalie has responded well to treatment and she can now go home, but I'm not allowing that to happen. I want to convince her to stay because my house should also be her house since we are mates. I want her to stay in bed for a day or two, and during that time I will organize a party to celebrate her recovery. Then in that party I will be introducing her to the pack members and invited guests as the Luna of the pack and my mate. I know she will have no alternative but to accept her roles. I can't let her go out there again because we all know how dangerous it is for her. We have rogues in our territory already and they are the ones responsible for her assault. Their motive is still unknown, and until we know it we can safely say that she isn't safe. I'll be assigning a guard to her from now onwards, because I need her safe. Beta Josh did an exemplary job trying to find out the people who attacked her, and the fingerprints had pointed towards very dangerous rogues. We always keep a database on all the criminals who have ever tried something in our territory, but these rogues have proved to be very elusive. Maybe this time we will find them. Also, we haven't been able to establish the motive behind the attack. Why would rogues attack her? That's one mystery we are trying to solve. About the party I'm organizing, I will be sending emissaries to invite many dignitaries, friends and associates, and also the alphas from our neighboring packs. And this includes Alpha George. Even though there's things going on behind our backs, I'll pretend to him that we are fine and that we know nothing about what he is doing. Associating with rogues. The diplomatic standoff that may arise if I don't invite him is not something I would want, especially in these times when tensions are rising. The invitations are going out anytime now because the party is taking place in 2 days. I have already informed my father and stepmom about it and they like the idea. Also, I have sent several notices inviting members of the pack to the party, and some of these notices are to be pinned on the notice boards of all the colleges in my territory and in shops all over the shopping mall. It's going to be a huge party and I have done nothing else since morning but to arrange it. Now that all protocols are in place I go back to my usual work. Sitting at my desk and working on my computer, I watch video clips from several CCTV cameras around the park. This is not my work entirely. It's the work of my beta, but I love seeing what it is they're doing on the ground firsthand. By the time they report something to me, I am always informed, and sometimes I surprise them. At the moment, I am watching some footage from the shopping mall, and something unbelievable jolts me to attention. Right here in my territory, I see the man I have been inquiring about, sitting squarely in one of the eateries at the shopping mall, clearly disguised to look like a student. He's wearing a black hooded top, the one students like. I rewind the clip again and zoom in. Then I pause and reach for the man's file in my desk. I take out his picture and compare with the one in my screen. It's the man, no doubt. We have an invader and he is a dangerous man, could be one of Natalie's assailants. Quickly, I reach for my dagger. This one I'm going to handle myself.
Boniface. Mine is a fact-finding mission for the time being. I need to find out whether it's true that Natalie is in this pack, after which I'm going to establish contact. I don't know how long that is going to take me, but it's something I have to do before going back home. In my estimation, it's going to take at most 3 days. I enter the shopping mall and look out for the most frequented eatery. Students from every college will be flooding here anytime soon. But there's something I have observed as I was going around the colleges. There's intensive training, close to military grade, that is going on here. Even the major pack grounds are packed with many youth, doing what would qualify as military drills. These people are preparing for something, but I will not inform our alpha because that wasn't my brief. Again, I'm not here voluntarily. He has forced me to come. A waiter approaches me and I place my order. Some chicken wings and rice, then a cold drink as I wait for the students to come. I look at my watch and it's approaching 5 o'clock in the evening and the first students come in. I'm surprised to see someone I didn't expect here, and I look twice just to be sure. Yes, it's her, Janet. She's in a group of students who arrive first, and as she goes past my table I summon her. She's equally shocked to see me. Janet is a girl from our pack, and we used to go to the same school, but that was years ago. I stopped seeing her, and even though she has grown big and chubby, I can't forget her from her looks. She now looks more like her mother, whom I know only too well. Even with the layers of makeup on her face, she's just the same girl. Hi Janet, please sit down. I'm surprised to see you, I say as I welcome her. I see the way she looks at my food and immediately deduce that if I buy for her something like this, she may give me just the information I need. Hi Boniface. I didn't expect to see you too, she says, though I can see she isn't so excited in seeing me. Could I be spoiling it for her? The waiter hovers around our table and I instruct him to serve her a meal similar to mine, and I can see her smile behind the makeup mask. Tell me, are you looking for Natalie? She asks the question very directly, making it so easy for me because I was looking for a way to frame it. Yes, as a matter of fact I am, I reply. Well, your sister Natalie is here in this pack, but she is no longer the Natalie we used to know. Now she has adopted very bad habits, and one of them is husband snatching, she says, and I can see she is so bitter about it. But she must be wrong. I know Natalie. She's my sister. I ponder her statement as I take a swig of the cold drink. Meanwhile, her food has arrived and she attacks it with gusto. I don't think we are talking about the same Natalie. I'm talking about my sister. Maybe you have it mixed up, I say. She talks, with a whole chicken wing in her mouth. Right now as we talk, she is inside our alpha's house. She has him under a spell and now he claims that she's his mate. Do you see that notice there? She points with her puckered mouth towards a notice board in the cafe's notice board, and when I look around I see it. It's an invitation to a party where he will be announcing her as the Luna of this pack and her mate. That's how far she has gone in her seduction. Quite exemplary. The alpha has invited everyone to the party. Even Alpha George will be coming, and any interested member of the Two Hills pack. I wonder whether they invited your parents too. Natalie's parents, I mean, but I doubt they would have such courtesy, she says. I can sniff jealousy from a distance. If indeed the alpha of this pack has seen Natalie as his mate, I think that's the way it is, only that it now complicates my mission. I need some time to decipher the information I have just received. But just then pandemonium strikes. A huge man strolls into the shopping mall, attracting the attention of everyone around. I had thought that Alpha George was huge, but I was wrong. The man I'm looking at from a distance is the biggest and strongest man I have ever seen, and he's coming my way. I feel some element of fright. The man looks fearsome. Here comes the alpha, I hear someone in the cafe say, and I realize that I am in danger. I also realize that he hasn't seen me yet, and I take that opportunity to remove my hooded top and I don my baseball cap. The hooded top I drop to the floor. Then I hand some money to Janet and tell her to clear the bills, and I disappear into the crowds. The mall is teeming with uniformed guards, and my few days of training tell me that they are looking for something, or someone, or me. I walk slowly towards the back door and join a group of students who are dressed just like me. A screening point has been established at the exit and everyone is holding their identity card as they pass through. I quickly delve into my pockets, and when no one is looking I put on a fake mustache. Then, holding one of the fake identity cards, I approach the gate. The guards let me out without much ado. Mercenary? Natalie. I am completely healed, and as it turns out I don't need any body transfusion. I'm still staying at my room at Alpha James' house, and most of the time I spend playing games with Mike. I have not yet resumed my studies, and I haven't been to school for a while now. Anne and Peter have been to see me severally. I love their concern and I can't thank them enough. They were here to see me the very first day I went missing. My room is no longer a hospital ward. All the medical apparatus have been removed and the smell of disinfectants and detergents is gone, replaced by my deodorants and sprays. James has been quite busy these days and we barely talk. He has been holed up in his office monitoring the training and other pack business. Earlier today I wanted to discuss with him on how to go back to my normal life, but he was so busy in his computer, and since I didn't want to distract him I postponed it to a later date. I'm not bored though because Mike has proved to be great company. I will let James work and I will only engage him when he's free. Then I hear him storming out of his office making frantic calls instructing someone to cordon off the whole shopping mall, and before I can gather what is going on he is gone. His car grinds the gravel vigorously as it drives off at high speed. He must have gone to investigate something, and I wonder what it is he has seen in his screen. I'm still playing with young Mike when a fuming James comes in. He is so angry a look at him evokes fear in me. He goes straight to his office and starts calling some people on the phone, castigating them.
I had him this close, but your guards let him slip away. I want you to investigate their conduct. We can't let this kind of laxity to go ahead unchecked.
He pauses to listen then responds.
Yes, he's a very dangerous man from the Two Hills pack, and he's hellbent on causing trouble here. Who knows, he could be responsible for the assault on my mate some days ago. And just when I have him in my crosshairs the guards let him walk. I wonder where their senses were. What is the use of a guard who can't detect the scent of a foreigner?
He bangs the table. I walk into his office just as he is finishing the conversation. He is staring blankly at the monitor, while his hand toys around with the keyboard of his computer.
By the way, Natalie, please come closer and take a look at this man. Maybe you know him.
He asks me. I walk around the table and stand behind him. He's busy with the keyboard, and in a moment I wait as several pictures flip through the monitor. Finally he settles on one grainy photo and we wait as the computer processes it. I hold my breath as the computer takes its time. The image clears properly and what I see almost sends me into panic mode, but I take control of myself before he notices. I'm so lucky I'm behind him and he can't see my reaction. My heart thumps vigorously and a small film of sweat is forming on my face. Before me, in the screen, is my very own brother Boniface, now fully grown and looking very strong. The last time I saw him he was a small boy, but now he is a big man, muscular and handsome. He has a very beautiful mustache and a neatly maintained beard. His blonde hair is the first thing that makes me recognize him. He's dressed in military gear. Camouflage pants and a green t-shirt that emphasizes the muscles within. I love the man he has grown up to, and I'm sure he's giving girls in Two Hills pack sleepless nights. I would recognize him any day even with all these changes in his physique. I feel a sensation at the back of my mind. Even my weak wolf has recognized him. Blood saluting blood.
Do you know this man, Natalie?
James asks. Yes. He's from my former pack, the Two Hills pack. What has he done? I say. I haven't lied entirely. because what I have just said is the truth. My father told me that if I have to lie, then I should base the lie on an aspect of the truth such that if the facts were presented to me later, I wouldn't have a problem remembering what I said about it. James rises from his seat and walks away, pacing his office. He finally pauses at the window and looks blankly outside.
He is a terrorist, a threat to our safety. He is one of the people who are getting ready to train the rogues in the forest. But that is not why I'm hunting him. This man had the guts to sneak into my territory and loiter around. I did not know his motive, but I was about to find out. He was sitting pretty at the shopping mall when I left here, and I ordered the guards to cordon off the premises so that I could easily arrest him. But the guards let him walk. I had him. Aorg.
He growls in anger and crashes a pen he's holding into the floor. I have nothing to say, but I am almost happy that Boniface managed to escape, because I shudder to imagine what would have happened to him had James arrested him.
The penalty for espionage in all the surrounding parks is nothing less. It's death by hanging,
he says, as if reading my mind.
We will be looking for him. I have already passed the sentence, and wherever he's found I want him, dead or alive.
He adds, I can't believe that this is my brother he's talking about. I wonder what Boniface has been up to since I left the Two Hills pack. Is it possible he got mixed up in rogue business? Is he a mercenary? I ask myself these questions as I try to understand the current developments. I'm certain though that this issue has just caused some complications in my relations with James. I wonder what his reaction will be once he finds out that Boniface is my brother.
His name is Boniface Stevens. I have his file right here and I will be closely monitoring his movements. He shouldn't consider himself lucky just yet. Indeed, he's the most unlucky man on the universe because I'm going after him with all my might. And, Natalie, did you recognize your assailants? Is he one of them?
That jolts me from my thoughts. No, he wasn't among them. This is someone I know, and if he was among them I would have recognized him at that very moment. I reply. Right then his phone rings and I pray that it isn't to report about Boniface's arrest.
Yes, okay,
he says, and just like that the conversation is over.
They have lost him. The guards had pursued him beyond our territory into the neighboring forest, but he managed to get lost. I've told them to come back here. I'll have someone's head for supper tonight,
he says, but I can see he has relaxed. He comes back to his desk and settles.
Sorry about that. These are some of the pack duties you will be handling once you become the Luna of this pack,
he says.
And speaking of which, tomorrow we will have the mother of all parties, to celebrate your recovery and to announce to the whole world that you are my Luna and mate,
he adds. And right then my stomach fills with butterflies. Party. Natalie. 2 days after Boniface's escape, everything is forgotten and James has regained his calm. We never go back to the topic and I wish it stays that way. I also pray that Boniface doesn't show up again here. Even though I miss him, I pray that we meet again, somewhere else but not here. All the things I have heard about him must be untrue, and if they are true I need an explanation from him. I'm still at the pack house where I have remained after recovery and I'm registering very good progress, and interestingly I can feel my wolf stirring at the back of my head at times. The feeling, though very feeble, is unmistakable. Every passing day I can feel her getting stronger and stronger, and very soon she may come back in full force and give me the direction I very much need. Something makes me happy about this coming evening, the evening of the party. I am forever grateful to James for rescuing me from the scene where my assailants had left me to die. Had he not found me, I would have choked on the dirty puddles that were forming around me. I am preparing a small speech to appreciate his kindness. I have even decided to take up the Luna position and become his mate, hoping that my wolf will go along with the decision when she comes back. I hear that many guests have been invited and I'm looking forward to seeing the look on Alpha George once he sees me. I had an opportunity of going through the list of invitees and he was up there in the VIP section. I have never forgotten what happened to me that night of rejection, and I will never be able to forgive him. Since everyone is free to attend, I wonder whether my parents will be attending too. But this one I don't bank on so much because I doubt whether they know that I'm here. I decided to keep my whereabouts a secret until I recover fully from George's heartbreak. I'm outside the pack house when guests start arriving and James and I usher them in. With few introductions here and there, the guests are arriving from faraway places, but mostly they are ordinary folks. The alphas of the neighboring packs have not yet arrived. Darkness is approaching and the guests are still trooping in, and the sweet aroma of food is wafting around. They are being served as they arrive in the hall, and the turn-up is enormous. We have been standing outside for hours and now we decide to walk inside. James assigns the duty of welcoming the guests to Beta Josh but says that he must be summoned to welcome the alphas when they come. Just as we leave, a familiar car pulls up in the parking lot and my body erupts in a mixture of many feelings. It's my father's car and my heart thumps at seeing it. I can't hide my anxiety and my blood is boiling. Then my wolf stirs for the first time today. I can't wait to see who disembarks from it. James has noticed what I'm doing and he stops in his tracks and we all look at the car. The driver's door opens and my father steps out and my immediate reaction is to open my mouth, ready to scream my excitement, but I withhold it. Father goes around and opens the passenger's door and Mum steps out too. I can't hold it anymore and I rush towards them. In the twilight, the couple doesn't believe what they're seeing and Mum holds me tight for what looks like eternity. Natalie. Oh my Natalie. I never thought I would see you again. She lets go of me for a moment, then takes me back to the same tight hug. I notice that she is sobbing and I can't restrain my tears too. Father and James stand aside and watch the unfolding drama. Finally she lets me go and I take her arm. She looks at me again, this time with more scrutiny. I remain silent, smiling sheepishly. What she sees makes her cup her mouth in shock. Natalie dear, what happened to you? What is this scar? She asks. I knew she would ask me about it because it's one feature that is most conspicuous. James speaks and all attention is turned to him. I'm happy I don't have to answer Mum's question, at least not now.
Hi, I am James, the alpha of this pack, and I gather you are Natalie's parents?
He says. They look at each other as if they're deciding on who to talk first. Yes, we are. Thanks. We thought she was dead. We don't believe our eyes, Mother says. Father has not said a word since his arrival and he gets an opportunity to hug me. His head is now full of gray hair but he is still as strong as I left him.
Well, here she is, and as you can see, she's fine. Please come in and get seated. The party is going on already.
He says, and we all troop inside and James takes us all to the high table. He then leaves us to talk and walks out. He's been summoned to welcome an important guest. Oh Natalie, Boniface told us about you and I told your father that I must come to this party. Mother finally says. Boniface? How did he know I was here? I ask. I already know he was here but I need to hear more. Boniface had to come and look for you after Alpha George imprisoned your father here. Mother continues. He however didn't see you but he got the information that you were here. We even know about this party and we came to congratulate you. She says. What do you mean Dad was imprisoned? Is this true Dad? I ask. Father has been quiet all through but he now talks. Your disappearance has not been easy on everyone. We even started entertaining evil thoughts. Maybe you should tell us what fueled your escape, Natalie. About my imprisonment. I think Alpha George was out of his mind, and the less I talk about this the better. He says. His voice is the same old baritone. The conversation comes to an end when James comes in with another couple, a man in his middle age and his mate. He settles them at the high table too.
Alpha Zach, welcome and meet Natalie. I have told you about her before. Also, meet her parents. Feel at home, my friend.
He says, and we shake hands with them. James sits next to me as food and drinks are served. I forget the current circumstances and delve into the food. The party is now in full swing and people are enjoying alcoholic beverages. The music too has started, and it now looks as if we are not expecting any more guests. At the high table we talk about general issues as we finalize on our food and start on the drinks proper. There are all sorts of beers and wines. The men concentrate on the alcohol while we take soft drinks. Mom asks me to show her to the washrooms, and when we get there she indulges me in small talk. Alpha George wants you to become his mate. He claims that you are his mate. Can you imagine that? She says in a low tone that only me can hear. The whole building is filled with human voices and loud music. I don't want any association with that evil person, I say. I said so myself. That philanderer. He has no shame. After running around with countless women, now he sees the need for a mate. She says, I don't care what he's been doing, and I'm not interested. We walk back to the table and find James on his feet. He is addressing the crowd. The whole crowd has gone silent and they're listening carefully. The music has been turned off. I know what he's going to say, and my heart is thumping heavily. Then my eyes land on Janet, the girl who hates me so much, and wonder what she'll say after this night. We sit down and listen.
It's therefore my pleasure to present to you, my mate and the Luna of this pack, Natalie Stevens.
He stretches his hand towards me and I rise to take it. The whole crowd bursts into loud applause and I can see all eyes trained on me. Two things happen at once. The first one I had seen it coming, but the second one is a surprise. In the first one, Janet storms out furiously, almost running, while in the second Alpha George walks in. In his glamour and grandeur, I'm holding the microphone to address the gathering, but I am so lost. I don't have the words. They've disappeared into thin air. Drums of war. Natalie. I notice that Beta Josh is leading Alpha George to the high table. I'm still standing still, microphone in my hand, but I say nothing. The crowd thinks that I am waiting for the newcomer to be settled, but there's more to it than they think. I'm thinking of what to say. James receives Alpha George and the two greet each other happily like long-lost buddies. Then George is shown into an empty seat at the high table. He is definitely dressed for the occasion, with designer casual wear and expensive-looking pieces of jewelry are on his neck, wrist, and fingers. On his feet is a pair of loafers that has no doubt been imported from abroad. He sits next to James' parents who have just come in too. Our invited guests. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you to express my gratitude to the Alpha of this pack, Alpha James, for allowing me to become a member of this pack. I also want to thank him for rescuing me when I was injured and vulnerable. I found my voice and spoke. Everyone was silent, and they were listening carefully. It's times like these when one's oratory skills are put to test, and the biggest mistake a speaker can make is to become distracted. I fought the distraction that came in form of Alpha George and trudged on. From the corner of my eye I could see that he was looking at me attentively. I stand before you to confirm to members of this pack and invited guests that I am willing to accept all the roles that my Alpha and mate James is going to give to me, and I will perform them with dedication, loyalty, and allegiance. From the corner of my eye I see Alpha George getting worked up. I think that he has already recognized me from the way he is paying attention. I just hope that I am serving enough revenge on him for all that he did to me, and I'm happy that he's here to witness me, a lowly Omega in his opinion, rising to become a Luna. I am about to get distracted by my thoughts, and I set them aside and continue with my speech, most of which I had memorized. I'm happy that all of you are here to witness this occasion, and as everyone can see, you can rise from nobody to someone. Also, it's foolish to look down on people because you never know their position in society in the future. Also, I need to encourage those that are going through tough times to be patient. Your time to shine is coming, I say to loud applause from the listeners. Thanks everyone, and I look forward to seeing you again. I finalize my speech and everyone gives me a standing ovation, including the occupants of the high table. They are all clapping even as I sit down. James takes over the microphone and invites several speakers to talk. Speaker after speaker congratulate him for finding his mate, and they wish that it will become a step in firming up his good leadership. The guest speaker is Alpha Zach, and he recognizes the presence of Alpha George, the former Alpha, James' father, and other guests. He lauds James for being a good friend of his pack and requests him to keep the fire of their friendship alive. We live in dangerous times, and greed for power is turning friend against friend. But I'm lucky that Alpha James is a friend in need indeed, and together we will go far. Right now as I speak we face serious threats in our pack. The Woodland Pack, rogues, emboldened than ever before, are planning an attack, and they may strike any moment. But I'm lucky that I have a friend. I know that when I scream he'll come running. He says in part. I am seated next to James, but a distance away from George. I can see that Zach's speech is not so entertaining to George, or maybe he's not interested. He keeps on stealing glances at me, and I'm happy inside because I know he regrets his decision to break our bond. My worry is what he may do if he gets a chance to talk to me. Can he apologize for the pain he submitted me to, or will he congratulate me on my new status?
What are you thinking about, dear?
James, who has been quiet all along, asks me, jolting me out of my reverie. I take a huge sip from my soda, and once it's gone down my throat I say, nothing. I am enjoying every moment. Someone calls him, and I take the moment to chat with my mom. Nothing much, just catching up. We would have wished you to come back home with us, she says. Mom, that's impossible. As you can see, I'm comfortable here and I have gotten some new roles. I say. Too bad, dear. We still miss you. But have you noticed that Alpha George can't believe that we are sharing the same table, and the way he looks down on us? She says in a low tone, then adds, can you see how uncomfortable he is? Mom, I don't care. I'm now interested in my mate, James, I answer. That keeps her quiet for a while. The party comes to a close at around midnight, and I notice that Alpha Zach has been missing for a while. Many people have left the hall, but George doesn't seem to be in a hurry. My parents are also preparing to leave, and I walk them to their car. James sees us walking out, and he joins us at the parking lot. It's been a good time, Alpha. Thanks for everything, my father says.
You are always welcome, sir. We will be meeting quite often now that we are family,
James says. Mom is tired and she enters inside the car. I have already said my goodbyes, and I wave as the car reverses from the parking slot, then drives away towards the gate. I watch until the taillights disappear. James takes my hand and we walk back inside. He tells me about Alpha Zach, who had to leave due to an emergency at his pack. We get inside to find that everyone has left the hall, but there's someone at the high table, and my instincts smell trouble. It's Alpha George. When he sees us coming, he rises up and approaches us. He has grown huge over the years, but he's no match in size with James. He continues getting closer, and I wonder what his motive is. Finally, when he almost a few inches from us, he speaks. Hey you Alpha James. What do you think you are doing toying around with my mate? He asks. James looks at him in disbelief. Then he looks at me as if he's expecting me to say something. I have nothing to say, and all I can do is stare at the ground. She didn't tell you then, huh? She didn't tell you that she was my mate and that the reason that she's here is because she ran away from me? He says, a huge sneer in his face. James doesn't believe what he's hearing. He looks at me again, but my face is fixed on the ground. I raise it a bit and I see George smiling slyly, happy that he has planted a bad seed. Ask her now, for avoidance of any doubt. George goes on.
Shut up,
James thunders.
Natalie, look at me.
He says.
Is what he's saying true?
He asks. No, we aren't mates with him. He broke the mate bonds with me long time ago when I was a kid, and I want nothing to do with him. I say. George looks surprised by my statement, but James' face displays some level of hurt. I regret not telling him the whole truth when we met.
Listen, Alpha George, Natalie is now my mate, and not only that, she is also the Luna of this pack. You had your chance and you squandered it. She's no longer yours. She's mine,"
he says, throwing a hand over my shoulders. At that very moment I hear a sensation at the back of my head. My wolf has communicated, though not something clear. She's still not strong enough. Your mate? How now? You haven't even marked her all those days she's been here? What have you been waiting for, huh? A whistle? George asks contemptuously.
"Enough, George. Now get the hell out of my house. Now!"
James orders. They're only a few inches apart and I'm now getting terrified. I walk away and watch them from a distance. They come even closer to each other, their heads almost touching, each daring each other. An eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation, mano a mano. George blinks first. "Well, I'll go, but this is not the last time you are hearing from me. Trust me, this isn't over. It's nowhere near over." And with that he strides majestically to the door as James follows closely behind. A minute or so later I hear the powerful engine of his sports car blaring through the night as he exits the compound. James is at the door and I'm transfixed at the spot, wondering what will happen next. He comes back to me, then looks at me inquisitively.
"What else are you hiding from me, Natalie? What else?"
I'm so ashamed of myself for not disclosing everything, and now it has come back to haunt me. I'm sorry, James. I had plans of telling you all about my past, but it was so painful that I kept on postponing. Trust me, I would have told you everything. I say, still looking at the floor. I know something else that I should tell him right away, but if I do it'll only escalate the situation. He needs to know that Boniface is my brother, but not now.
"You withheld important information from me, Natalie. I don't know how to handle this,"
he says, then storms out of the hall through the door that leads to his office. I follow closely behind, trying to match his pace, almost running. I find him seated looking at his computer, but his thoughts are far away. I'm sorry, James. Forgive me. I will from now on be here to offer you any assistance you need. Just give me an office. I don't finish the sentence because his phone rings and he takes the call, then listens pensively.
"You won't believe it. The rogues have invaded the Woodland Pack. They have already torched a village, killing women, the elderly and children. Alpha Zach has just confirmed. War has started, Natalie. You want an office? Take that chair and operate from that desk. It's now your office. We will talk about your past at a later date,"
he says, then sinks back into his chair and drifts into heavy thought. Wartime Luna. Natalie. Becoming Luna is the easiest part. Performing the duties is the most difficult. You have to balance the affairs of the pack and your personal issues. Sometimes the alpha may annoy you, but you cannot allow anyone to notice. For the well-being of the pack. James' stepmother says. She's a young lady, in her late 20s, and to me she cuts the image of an elder sister. After the party and the conversation at James' office, I went to my room and changed, ready to sleep. It was a very tiring day, not only physically but also mentally. It had even ended in disaster and I regretted a lot of my past decisions. I had left James still in his office, in a very bad mood after the bad news he had received, plus the revelation about my past with George. Just before I jumped to bed, I heard a faint knock on the door and I went to open. James was standing there, still gloomy, and I welcomed him in.
"Natalie, I'm sorry about the little misunderstanding we had earlier. I have come to apologize. I couldn't sleep with this load in my head,"
he said.
"I want also to thank you for accepting to be my mate and Luna,"
he added. It's at that very moment that my wolf came back. It started like a little stirring at the back of my head. Then it escalated into some whispering sounds, and it was as if James could see what was happening.
"Are you okay, Natalie?"
he asked. But my head was one big mess and I couldn't answer. The feeling inside was too overwhelming for me even to talk. Then the whispers turned into loud voices, inside my head still. I tried suppressing them, but all efforts were in vain because without my intentions I found myself uttering the very word that was being repeated inside my head. the very word I had avoided saying. Mate. I only realized the full impact of what I said after I had said it, especially because I said it in the presence of James. He couldn't believe it either. He beamed with happiness and jumped straight at me, holding me and squeezing me tight, then lifting me off the ground. My head was still in a turmoil and I was waiting for my restless wolf to calm down. I tried communicating with her, but she was so excited to listen. In the meantime, James was looking at my eyes, as if waiting for me to say something. Finally my head cleared and I was happy that I had gotten the much-awaited signal. James was my mate. My wolf had confirmed. I was so overcome with emotions that I began crying. The process had taken so long and I had patiently waited. I had been falsely accused of throwing myself at James by my former friend Janet. I had been assaulted and left for the dead, but I had still waited for this moment. I had waited patiently for my wolf. James calmed me down and I stopped crying. Then he had kisses me and this time I kissed him back. Oh, my eyes! They opened and I realized that moment that I loved James. I held on to him tightly as if I was afraid he would go and leave me. I was suddenly jealous, wanting him to myself only, to stay by my side and my side only. I feared that if he walked out there he would be taken up by other girls.
Natalie, I love you.
He finally said the words that melted my heart, shredding it to pieces and escalating my blood pressure. And suddenly my body was yearning for him. I so badly wanted him to mark me, and me to mark him. I thought the same feeling was afflicting him because as he held me tight I could feel his manhood pricking me. He was getting harder every second. Then suddenly another feeling came over me, a sad moment, a rude memory. What if he rejected me the way George had done? Will I be able to recover? I suddenly pulled myself away, walked away. This must have surprised James because he stood at the spot looking at me quizzically.
What's wrong, Natalie?
He inquired. I had no answer to that. Instead, I started crying again. All the tears I had suppressed came flowing freely. He came closer again and held me in a tight embrace.
Natalie, you now need to open up to me. I have noticed slowly that there is something that is bothering you. There's something that is holding you back. I think now it's the time for you to be frank with me and tell me what it is.
He said, still holding me. He took out his handkerchief and wiped away my tears, and I stopped crying. I thought I should speak the truth and bear the consequences. All right, James, I said. We sat on my bed and I narrated to him about my past, placing a lot of emphasis on the party I attended as George was being made alpha. I told him about my first encounter with him and how I felt when I realized that he was my mate. Then later what happened after he rejected me. I am so sorry I didn't tell you all this because I live in constant fear of being rejected. And even right now I fear that you may use me and dump me. I think I'm insecure, James. I summarized. He placed his hand on my shoulder and drew me closer.
Listen, Natalie, I love you so much. You are my mate and I will never leave you or reject you. You need to start treating that rejection by George as a blessing in disguise because it led to you coming here and we met. We are going to become the most beautiful couple all across the neighboring packs. Now, remove that thought about me rejecting you and delete it completely, because that will never happen.
He told me.
Now, I'll let you sleep. It's getting very late. I need to make one call at Alpha Zach and then I'll sleep too.
He said.
And starting tomorrow, I need you to move to my bedroom. We are mates and we shouldn't be sleeping in different beds. I will leave you to think about it.
He added, then stood up and held my hand, pulling me up too. We embraced each other, then kissed passionately. As my body started gathering momentum, I felt the urge again, and I was tempted to open his fly and remove his throbbing manhood. But as I brought my hand to it, he stopped me.
Tomorrow, Natalie, I want the event when we mark each other to be special. I don't want it to happen just as a random act. We must plan for it, starting in the morning. I want it to build up such that when we meet in the evening we are at the peak.
He said. Then he kissed me again and walked out.
Good night, my love.
He said. and I saw that he was waiting for my reply. "Good night, love. I love you," I said. I could see the smile on his face as he walked out and locked the door. I have never been that happy, and when I slept I dreamt that I had many children. When I woke up in the morning I found James already at the dining table. He was unusually dressed in military fatigues and a few weapons were placed on a small table, and I wondered what he was up to.
"Good morning, my love. Breakfast is ready,"
he said as he pulled a chair next to mine. I sat down and he placed a peck on my cheeks.
"I am sorry to tell you this, but after we parted ways I talked to Alpha Zach and he needs me immediately at his pack. There is a lot of trouble and he needs my help. The rogues are almost overpowering him. I'm leaving right away, but I wanted to see you first,"
he said. The war he was talking about had come and suddenly I was sad again. He was leaving me. "When will you be back?" I asked him.
"I don't know, but I'll keep the visit as brief as possible,"
he said. We took breakfast in silence, and as he rose to leave he told me,
"I leave everything here under you. Beta Josh is going to handle some matters, but it's you who will occupy my office. This is the time for you to know how to run a pack. I have requested my stepmom to help you and bring you up to speed,"
he said, and just like that I watched him move out, and later I heard the hum of his car as it left. Now I remember some aspects of that conversation, even as I talked to the former Luna, James' stepmother. Consider yourself lucky you have James. He is a great man who treated me well when I came here. He helped me settle, and now it's my time to reciprocate. I'll help you where I can. Feel free to ask," she said. "Thanks so much, but I'm longing for his return. I miss him already. How I wish he took me with him." I say, "Relax. I don't think he'll be gone for long. I know that feeling you have, but you will overcome it. Just keep yourself busy," she says. "Yes, I'll concentrate on my studies and take part in training, but this war scenario has spoiled our plans. I was looking forward to our special day with James. The marking ceremony has just been postponed indefinitely, and I'm so disappointed by that." In the woods, Boniface. After the narrow escape from the Evergreen Pack, I became angry with Alpha George. I thought he had set me up because he was the only one who knew about my whereabouts. That evening I decided to pay him a visit at the pack house, though I was not sure that I would find him. To my utter surprise he was there, but not at his office. As I walked through the security at the floodlit parking lot, a car at the far end hooted, and when I looked I saw nothing until one security guard told me to approach the car. Other guards outside the car frisked me and took away my dagger. Then they allowed me into the car. The passenger door opened and I saw him, seated in the driver's seat. I found it somehow odd. Such a substitute for an office. "Come in, Boniface. You must have had a big day. I hear they're hunting for you," he said, then burst into loud laughter. I wondered what was so funny in my tribulations, and also how he had learned about my being hunted. The guards from the Evergreen Pack had pursued me until I had crossed their border, and only my speed came to my rescue. No one knows what would have happened to me had they laid their hands on me. I entered the car and locked the door. Then an automatic mechanism locked the window. Alpha George was smoking a large cigar, and thick smoke spiraled from his mouth out through the window on his side, which was open. "I ordered for the release of your father. Things have taken an interesting twist, and I even think your mission today was unnecessary," he said. "Well, it was unnecessary, yet it almost cost me my life." I said nothing. "I have received a letter inviting me to the Evergreen Pack to witness as your sister Natalie is being announced as the mate to Alpha James. I'll be attending the party to see for myself. I'll try to convince her against it and bring her back home. Meanwhile, you should get yourself ready. The rogues you were to train are going to launch an attack anytime soon. They have requested me to send you to train them as the war progresses. In effect, you will be fighting alongside them," he said. That wasn't the deal, but before I could protest he cut me off. "I'll sufficiently compensate you for your work, Logan too. You will be my emissaries in that war, and I want you to succeed. The mention of compensation made it look good. Take this book. It's about the Woodland Pack. Go and study it properly so that when we meet in the morning you are sufficiently informed why I need to get my hands on the pie, he said. This was looking like the end to the conversation, and as I excused myself he opened the glove compartment and retrieved a thick wad of notes and gave it to me. This is your down payment. Do a good job and you will never work again, he said. I had to separate the bills in order for them to fit in my several pockets. Thanks. I'll take a look at the book, I said as I walked out. You do that, and come to my office tomorrow at noon. We need to come up with a strategy. Make sure you have read that book thoroughly before coming, he said as the door shut behind me. The book was titled The Emerald Pack, and I wondered why they chose such a title for it, until I opened it. Inside was a long explanation of the wealth of minerals in the Woodland Pack's mountains. The writer had taken his time elaborating the wealth that had been unharnessed, starting with rare stones, diamonds and emeralds. The forests in the Woodland Pack were pure hardwood species not found elsewhere in the planet and that cost an arm and a leg in the market. The pack leadership had denied many prospective investors from harvesting the wood. Also in the pack were deposits of oil that needed to be drilled, but every time an investor asked to mine it they hit a wall because they were denied licenses. By the time I finished reading the book I was satisfied that the Woodland Pack was the richest pack anywhere in the world, and that explained why Alpha George was interested in the war. If indeed the leadership of the pack had denied licenses to the investors who needed to exploit the minerals and timber, then the easiest way to get them was to topple the leaders and install others, and to achieve that the rogues were the easiest mercenaries for the job. Alpha George stood to gain a lot if the leadership of the pack changed because in the same book there were lists of companies that wanted licenses and failed. One company, a saw-milling company, was closely associated with his family. It had depleted most of our forests, importing all the timber, and in the process they grew extremely rich. Now that there was no more timber in our forests, they were seeking for new frontiers, and the Woodland Pack, so named after their woods, looked like a good place to invest. By the time I was through with the book I knew only too well what was expected of me, and it was early in the morning when I caught a few winks. The meeting at his office was also attended by Logan, and we were told to be at standby. The war was going to start any time, and we were needed in the forest station once it started to train the rogues. I'm going away, and we may not meet again until after the war. May you be successful, George said as he bid us goodbye. That evening the call came. My parents had gone to the Evergreen Pack because I had reported to them about Natalie's presence there and the upcoming party. When the call came I called Logan and we left immediately, and now we are deep in the jungle. The war has started and the rogues are properly armed. We are only here to train them on the use of modern weapons that are arriving in huge consignments. This looks like the most well-funded operation of all time, and the alpha of the Woodland Pack will be lucky if he doesn't get toppled. Among the weapons in the camp are swords, scimitars, battle axes, bows and arrows, and a few guns. None of us has any knowledge on guns, but the other weapons are common among our packs and everyone knows how to use them. The rogues, however, may need a little fine-tuning, and that's where we come in. We set our tent and wait for the rogues to come back. Training will be strictly done in the night under the moonlight. At around 6 o'clock in the evening the army of the rogues come back to the camp. They are led by the man we had been told was our contact, Matthew. Matthew is a lean man with unkempt hair. His face is full of scratches and scars, possibly earned in the battleground. He wears an outdated military jacket and unpolished boots. Just like most of the rogues he commands, one look at him and you are certain that you are dealing with a criminal. He comes to the tent that I share with Logan and he looks famished, with dry cracking lips and a craned neck. Their supplier must have forgotten to supply them with enough food. I hear that you are our new trainers. What's your strategy? He asks without preamble, with his Adam's apple moving up and down his throat like a large unswallowed fruit. I expected the first words to be a welcome to his territory, but alas. Yes, we are. We need to start with the weapons, I say. Maybe, but now things are not as easy as we thought. Alpha Zach of the Woodland Pack has enlisted the help of Alpha James of the Evergreen Pack, and this might turn ugly. Very ugly, he says, and right away I feel a lot of butterflies in my stomach.
Say what?
Logan seems more surprised than me.
That was too fast.
He adds, the Evergreen Pack is sending hundreds of its warriors to the battleground. I don't think we have the capacity or the ability to win this war, but since we have started it, we have no otherwise but to take it to its conclusion. I don't hear most of the things he says because my mind has drifted to the Evergreen Pack, the training I witnessed, the agile warriors I saw, and the gigantic Alpha James. We have chosen the losing side, and we seem to have lost even before the war has started. Damn this Alpha James. I'll kill him myself, Logan says to my utter shock. My assailant, Natalie. I realized that I indeed loved James when he was gone. His absence made me miss him so much, and I hated the war. Why had it happened just when we were warming up to each other? Why so sudden? I needed him back, and I was going crazy without him near me. To keep myself busy I went back to school, but only for a few days because after James left the war situation escalated and all the elite trainees were summoned to join the war at the Woodland Pack. Most students belonged to this rank and they were ferried away. It seemed to me that the war was not as simple as someone had described it. Also most worrying was the fact that James was unreachable even on phone. I came to realize that the Woodland Pack was not very much connected as it lacked reliable phone connections. They weren't so much into technology, and rumor had it that they didn't even have roads, and the whole pack was a huge forest. I wished I could join him in the jungle because I couldn't hold it any longer. My wolf had come back in full force now, and I was so strong, coupled with my sustained training. Even my trainers found out that I wasn't cut for the lowest ranks, and I was transferred to the elite trainees, now training at the pack's training grounds. Unluckily for me, I wasn't among those selected to join the war, and I wished I was. Arnold was among those who went to fight, and so was Janet. I was so consumed by jealousy, seeing someone like Janet who I knew wasn't strong as I was being selected, but I decided to work hard too, aiming to be selected in the next cycle. With the colleges closed, and most students gone, every effort was dedicated on the training, and the sessions would start in the morning and end at around 4 o'clock in the evening. Among the trainees left were Anne and Peter, and among the trainers was their father Joseph. In 1 month I had become so strong that everyone wondered how I had done it. At some point the trainers felt that I was qualified enough to become a trainer, but that was not what I was looking forward to. I was looking forward to joining the battle, to be at the side of my mate James. I looked forward to the day of the selection. At the training grounds one day I came across something I had been looking for, something that had evaded the pack's investigators for so long. I came to notice that one of the trainees, Maurice, always had a glove on his right hand that he never removed even when training. I also discovered that one of his fingers, even with the glove on, seemed to be missing, and in its place he had stuffed it with some filler materials, invoking my position as the Luna of the pack. I instructed the trainers to find out what was behind the glove because I had my suspicions. One afternoon after training, Joseph called me into his office, and when I went there I found Maurice seated, his glove on the table and his hand hidden under the table. I knew right away that he had a missing finger. Please be seated, Luna. Natalie, we have a situation here. I had always told Joseph to address me as Natalie, but he would have none of it. Even though I regarded him as my father, he would always bow his head when addressing me. We have Maurice Donalds here, and as you can see I have ordered him to take off his glove. You can take a look at his hand, Joseph said, then motioned to Maurice to display his hand. Maurice was hesitant and Joseph had to shout at him. Now Maurice, display your hand for the Luna to see, and that's an order. The sound echoed throughout the room, shaking the glass window panes. Reluctantly, Maurice lifted up his hand and I saw clearly that his finger was missing. Then I looked at him properly and I realized that he was indeed among the people who attacked me. Maurice was among my assailants. Joseph took the hand and examined it closely. The wound wasn't completely healed, but it was doing well. He was going to heal in a month or two, which meant that he had obtained treatment from some source. Can you explain to us how you lost your finger, Maurice? Joseph asked. I had narrated to Joseph about the finger that I had severed from my assailants. I was attacked by wild animals in the forest when I went to look for honey. One beast bit me and my finger was cut off, he said. I could see he was lying. And where did you go for treatment? Joseph asked. Since I was at the forest, near the Two Hills Pack, I decided to rush to a clinic that was at the boundary. The man was an expert liar. Maurice, I interjected. If you speak the truth, maybe we will spare your life. Tell us, who are you exactly? I asked. My question was informed by the knowledge that my attackers were not members of the pack but dangerous rogues. Beta Josh had told me that, based on the fingerprints evidence he had. Maurice was so shaken by my question. Open up, Maurice. Also, tell us the circumstances that led to the loss of your finger. And you better stop lying because as matters stand you are in hot soup, Joseph added. Maurice was visibly shaken and looking for a way to escape, and he found none. Joseph's office was guarded by the most agile of his students due to the rank he now enjoyed in the pack. I am from the Two Hills Pack, Maurice finally said, almost a whisper. Joseph and I looked at each other in apprehension. We had netted a spy, someone who didn't have good intentions for our pack, and this meant that we involve high-ranking members of the pack. But they were all away and we had to decide on what to do. Before we know why you are here, can you now tell us where and how you lost your finger? And please don't give us this hogwash about a beast in the forest. We all know it's a lie, Joseph said. Maurice's eyes were fixed on the floor. The Luna of this pack, seated here, she bit it off when we attacked her, he said, now too ashamed of himself such that he couldn't raise his head. Why? What was your motive? Joseph prodded. We were paid to do that. A girl known as Janet paid us. Then she promised to organize for us to get pack membership after she sneaked us out of the Two Hills Pack. She hasn't kept the promise so far, though we delivered our side of the bargain, he said. I couldn't believe it. Janet, my former friend, hated me to this extent? She could hire people to hurt me? Why? The questions were endless, but I suppressed them because Maurice was still talking. She wanted us to kill Natalie, but once my finger was severed I ran away. The rest did not succeed in killing her, as you can see, he said. Any evidence of payment, Maurice? Joseph asked. Yes. Janet transferred the money from her account to me to distribute to the rest. The bank can confirm, he said. Who are the other two accomplices? Joseph continued with the interrogation. Thomas Baker and David Stanley, both members of the Two Hills Pack. They have since gone back home and finding them may be difficult, he said. Why are you training with us yet you aren't one of us? I like your training courses and I thought it would help me in future, he said. This was indeed a serious breach in our security and I advised Joseph to ensure that everyone in the training grounds was our member. It would be very dangerous to train outsiders who would in turn use our expertise to beat us in future. I ordered for the imprisonment of Maurice in our dungeons until Alpha James or Beta Josh returned. They were better placed to handle his case. But right now I have what I needed. I know why I was attacked and left for the dead. This Janet. I'm going to find her and she will have to explain to me why she hates me this much to the extent of hiring mercenaries to kill me. The next recruitment is coming up tomorrow morning and I'll most likely be recruited to go to war. Members of the pack injured in the battleground will also be brought home. How I wish the hours could fly. Janet has more than the war to worry about.